All right, excellent. So thank you, everybody, for making time today. Genuinely appreciate it. We've got a lot of meaningful contributors here to the network, representing, I think, fairly healthy cross-section in general in terms of, I think we've got manufacturers, distributors, host networks, various service providers. So really appreciate everybody making time for this. This is, incredibly important for us to make sure we run this as smoothly as possible. Want to make sure that we are not doing things in a vacuum. Want to have a lot of community collaboration involved. So genuinely appreciate everybody making the time to participate. At a high level, what the purpose of this group is, for you as contributors and builders of the network, we want to make sure that you feel confident that you have access to the resources, whether that's us or Helium Docs. Make sure there's no disruption to your business, customers, as that's applicable. I realize some folks here are just large operators of host networks, whatnot, or large deployments, so that might not necessarily be applicable. Just want to make sure everybody feels confident they're getting the information they need, the resources, the content is out there and available. And if there's gaps in that, if things are missing, if there's ambiguity, this is really the forum to have those types of discussions. But beyond everybody's own kind of commercial or individual motivations, this is also really a service out to the community in general. As large stakeholders, large participants, we want to make sure that you feel that similar organizations should be adequately prepared based on your own experiences. Anything that runs peripheral to you, again, whether that's customers or other similar large HUTSOT deployments, you feel like those are being served adequately as well. So that's really the high level goal as far as what we're looking to do here. As far as the actual output of the group, really the end result of this is a super majority vote of confidence. Effectively, your organization feels like you are adequately prepared. You have all the information you need to make sure the transition runs smooth for your organization, but for the network on the whole from your perspective. And that other organizations such as yourself should be also adequately prepared, again, kind of based on your experience as a representative of your segment of the network. So let me actually pop in. I realized I was getting a little bit ahead of myself. We do have a shared doc that we're going to be working out of. So let me put that in here. So that's in the chat. That should be open to everybody. And if folks can just populate, I think it'll take a little bit too much time to run around for introductions for everybody on the call. So what I would suggest is add your name in as an attendee, your organization, org type. That's really, again, like you're a manufacturer, distributor, you're running a host network. Popping that in would be incredibly helpful. And I think just in general, as folks are chiming in during the discussion here, if you want, if it's your first time speaking, just quickly do a quick intro of, who you are, your organization. That way we can try to keep things relatively efficient rather than doing a full round the room just for the sake of time. So appreciate everybody. I see everybody's jumping in and adding there. Thank you all. So as far as, I think, hopefully folks have a good understanding of kind of what we're here for, what the inputs are, what we're looking to do as a final output. The timeline we're trying to work on here. So again, from Foundation's perspective, we propose the 27th as a migration date. We're looking to see if we can get this group to a place that we can do kind of a first pat of a vote of confidence by targeting roughly, I think, March 16th. So that gives us ample time to feel that either we are ready, line things up with all third-party providers, for example, external wallets that we need to make sure are appropriately ready, that are not, run and serviced by anything that is Foundation Nova Labs or anybody else on this call. If we ultimately decide as a group that we're better serving the community to delay by some amount of time, again, adequate amount of time for us to message that out more broadly. So targeting that as the 16th for the first pass. And again, the idea, I think, is really a super majority. We had kind of thought that 2/3 felt that there was significant confidence within the organization. Obviously, we want to make sure we're covering off on everybody's concerns and issues. But I think for at least today's agenda, what I had, if you can see within the doc, I think first things first, just open up general questions. Anything that is clear gaps for folks, areas of ambiguity, want to just kind of have this as, think of it as just a smaller forum AMA. We've got folks from Foundation here. We've got, I think, a couple of folks from Nova. And I think we'll just kind of start with opening up for questions. Then anything that beyond those questions where you feel like there's kind of lacking, or again, gaps in documentation or ambiguity, can discuss that. Anything else folks feel like they want to see that might improve the overall process and experience for all of your organizations and operations that might make some sensitive improvements. And then, as far as next steps from there, determining as a group, what kind of content needs to be created or modified, assigning resources or volunteers within the group to make sure that that happens. And then from there, I think we will, want to keep everybody in a open fishbowl channel in Discord for further asynchronous discussion. And then, following this up with, I think, weekly meetings, given the fact that the migration being so close, a few weekly meetings, hopefully is not too much of a burden for folks here. Our opinion is they're recommended, helpful, certainly not mandatory. I know the time zone difference for a lot of folks is not the most convenient. We were trying to make sure we could satisfy as much of the community as possible. So to the degree that folks are better off doing those discussions asynchronously in Discord, happy to maintain kind of 2 threads of discussion there and then kind of come back to collaborate here live. So if there's any questions about overall goals, intentions here, we can raise those. Otherwise, if there's nothing on overall kind of point of this group and what we're looking to do in general, happy to just jump right into open questions, unless there's any other comments from Abai, Joey, folks from Foundation that want to add on anything.
No, this is great, Scott, and thanks for sort of proposing the sort of agenda and the way that we're going to do this. Assuming that it works for everybody, I think this is sort of a addition to all the AMAs that we've been doing, things that we've been talking about during community calls, me randomly responding to people on Twitter, the entire sort of gamut of things that we're trying to do, sort of direct engagement, group engagement, AMAs, Discord conversations. Like we just want to we kind of want to meet people where they are, and where they want to talk about this stuff. Like that's our goal. So hopefully this group gives us another sort of touch point.
I'll add, I think I've talked to a lot of you sort of independently at various times, but I'm really hoping that this group will pull me and the foundation out of our bubble, because all of this stuff is probably like old hat, or we're so deep in it, we're not even realizing what's new and what's not. And so this is all for me in the interest of like bolstering our documentation and sort of public resources around this migration and all of the infrastructure attached to it. So I'm going to leave this with the sort of call to action to say, go get in the docs and ask questions and make PRs. I'm going to be doing a lot of that myself, as well as the rest of the foundation team, but it's open for everybody.
Perfect. I could plus one out on more, but I think that we've covered, and I want to give everybody else here a chance to speak. I see that I think I see that there's a open question that got put right in the doc. Feel free to, Ian, you can either drop the question directly in the doc, or if we want to just kind of do it of a open forum here. If it gets a lot of hand, maybe we'll use the raise hand feature, but otherwise, if anybody wants to jump right in, please go ahead. Otherwise, if it's all quiet, I'm going to just jump right into James's question, since that's popped in. Thank you for adding that there. So the question as far as what actually happens on 327, will it involve a change to the Helium LNS or packet routing? Will it involve or complete the chirp stack migration? Joey, you best equipped to answer this one, or?
Sorry, I missed the first part of the question, but the chirp stack part of this.
Yeah, it's in the doc under open up for questions.
Let me just take a quick look here.
It'd be easier for you reading versus me.
Yes. Yeah, so I need to get the timelines of this lockdown. I've been coordinating. Actually, Pierre is on this call. It might be
Yeah.
something for him to jump in on.
Yeah. Hi, guys. Yeah, I can help a little bit here on that one. So right now we are working on kind of a two-step approach for everything that's IoT data related. I think we are going to try and get some of the makers here, and I see that some of you guys are here to test the new release of Gateway RF, so the hotspot software next week. That will go through the new architecture, aka we named the software HPR for Helium Packet Router. That will go live normally next week, so a little earlier than the chain, quote unquote, dying. Then after that, on the 27th, we will have a release for router that will disable the chain on router pretty much. But normally that release will be available earlier, and it will just be kind of a toggle in the configuration. You'll just say, I just want to turn off the chain there. We'll have obviously documentation, all of that. We've been testing, those migration this week, and we'll do more testing this week, involving more people there. And I'm happy to go more into details if anyone has more questions about this.
Great, thanks, Pierre. Any follow-up on that? I want to make sure again, like we don't just, if people want to kind of keep drilling deeper, if they feel like there's again still further questions, I want to continue down lines of questioning when it's appropriate to do so. About
the complete Chirp stack migration, by the way, it doesn't mean that on the 27 you have to switch to Chirp stack. If you have a fair amount of devices on any of the routers that are running out there, you will have time to migrate those, right? You will have time to go to somebody else's Chirp stack, do your own or anything like this, right? We're not hard filling down any routers on the 27th. Anticipating this to take months pretty much, right, to migrate everybody and things like that.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Pierre. Again, if we want to continue lines of questioning on this, whether you're adding in the doc directly while we're on this call, but I want folks to feel free that we can continue all these threads in the Open Fishbowl channel as well. I think it's going to benefit other community folks to see it. And again, to the degree that folks want to drill down a little bit deeper and get into nuance, like better to do that in public where others may have similar questions. Question from Kevin. When can we expect the, I got somebody hovering right over. When can we expect the update to the Maker app? We are still waiting for the SDK update for the transition. Thanks, Abai, for pasting that in.
Yeah, just for folks that are not also looking at the doc. I can actually answer this one. So there isn't in the docs there, I'm going to paste the link to it. There's a Maker app section. So I would start here. For all the makers that are on the call and are listening to this recording, start at this link, which is it's in docs.helium.com. Under the there's a Maker app section, and it talks about the Maker starter app, and it talks about the docs around it. The other thing that is also here is that there's a branch in Maker starter app that I think needs to be sort of better communicated, and so that's something that I'll take away. And I'll make sure that that's sort of talked about more in the docs.
Great. Any follow-up on that question? Kevin, I know you're the one who proposed it. Is there anything else that you want to drill into there? I think in general, what we'll try our best to do here, and I'm kind of adding this as we go in the doc, is anything that we can do as a next step on a specific item, whether that is, for Chirp stack specifically, a little bit more public clarification around the timeline. We'll think about where we can include that within the content calendar overall in the next couple of weeks. So whether that's docs updates, anything that we can post on Discord, other socials, we'll just be mindful of that and make sure we can get that highlighted. Obviously, we're going to err toward, just for this group's, we're going to prioritize getting more into docs whenever possible. Just give it that is, more shelf life, static content, clear central resource for folks to go back to, rather than kind of these things living in Discord or other socials where that stuff, the feeds quickly disappear. So we'll always optimize to get any sort of updates within Docs and just promoting those out through various channels. But Docs will be typically the central home for all this knowledge. Okay. Otherwise, we got next Solana RPC. How much actually, let me continue to paste these into. How much do we need an RPC that has XNFT access? From Spillair.
I could take this one too, I think. Yeah, so what this means, I'm guessing that you want that you're actually thinking more about compression, Daniel.
Yes.
Hopefully you can unmute. Oh yeah, okay, cool. So compression matters. So just context for folks that are listening, hotspots on Solana, the way that they're structured, they're using a feature of Solana called compression, where essentially each NFT is represented on chain as a small number of bytes, and then all of the RPCs that follow the Solana chain are able to index all of the NFT data. And this is sort of the way that you can, very, very cheaply mint like 1 million or 1 billion or possibly more NFTs on a chain like Solana. It's a feature that we're actually pretty, it's one of the reasons why Solana was chosen, and it's a feature that we're going to be using heavily. So if you want, so there's certain kinds of data that's available on chain. And there's certain kinds of data that's only available and only available on chain. And in order to be able to access that, you'll need to use an RPC provider that supports compression. There are a few RPC providers out there. We use Helios, but there are others as well. And if you want anything to do with hotspot locations, like a lot of the metadata around hotspots, it's useful to use an RPC provider that provides support for compression. Our expectation is that all RPC providers that sort of support Solana will support this eventually. There are just like 2 or 3 right now that are doing it.
All right. Daniel, feel like satisfied with that, right? Perfect. All right. I got a thanks. I'm taking that as a go ahead. All right. Next from Bari, which I think will get posted in a second, but we have discussed it during the office hour section. The Solana query examples for hotspots and accounts were told to be added to the documentation. Is it still under construction? So query examples, this is a docs question. Sam, are you in here actually? Or Joe, if you can jump in on that one.
I can kind of grab that. So I'm going to paste a link to a doc there. I don't know if that's exactly answering your question, but the document that I linked to outlines the Oracle data and access to said Oracle data that we have so far. So not all of the Oracles are currently submitting data. There's some more stuff coming online, but this is around the story of being able to sync the raw byte stream data from the Oracles and then basically ETL those into your own databases.
Actually, the Oracle part is pretty clear. I mean, that's perfect. Thank you. But the Solana integration part is quite vague to me. And at the Solana part, we believe that we will be getting metadata for accounts and hotspots, like the location, I don't know, like the name, etc. We checked the documentation. Maybe it is there, and it's pretty hard for us. There's a learning curve there, but I believe that we can. It can be nice to have more examples to query the metadata.
I agree. Like, I think we should probably in channel, we can start sort of brainstorming on ways to illustrate those examples. that's part of what this group is for, to make sure this stuff is super clear.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a part of this too where I think we'll need to sort of query one of the oracles to get like outstanding unclaimed rewards and things like that. So that's another area for us to talk through.
Okay, thank you.
All right, excellent. Going to keep things moving along. From Josh Longfi. If hotspots are offline during the migration, is there any impact or anything extra that will need to be done once they come online after migration? Will there be an IoT airdrop bonus for hotspots online prior to migration? And if so, has the criteria been described for this? Finally, what happens to hotspots that have been inadvertently placed on the deny list that do not get reviewed prior to migration? So I think first thing is, and I don't have the lawyers are, I want to make sure we're kind of being mindful of, again, the idea that the IoT distribution is kind of a reward for work being done, rather than kind of what other ecosystems might be referring to as an airdrop. I know the language can get a little bit kind of muddied at times, but making sure folks are kind of mindful of this being kind of a reward for work as far as the, providing coverage and transmitting of data. Abai, do you want to touch on the nuances as far? I mean, I know that the messaging that we've been putting out is, effectively hotspots online and active for the month leading up to migration. But do you want to dig into a little bit more of the nuance around it?
Yeah. So the structure, the sort of way that this was approved by the community through the HIPs and the sort of the way that we've been thinking about it in general, as far as implementation, that the idea is active hotspots that are, so the HIP specifically says active hotspots not on the deny list prior to the migration will be eligible for sort of this IoT this bonus that you get on the other side, and then same on the validator side, right? There's IoT that's available for validators that were online and operating up to the point of the migration. And so essentially it's that the way that we read that is that we are using the last 30 days up to the migration as the way to take that snapshot. And if and that's sort of the so far that's sort of the way that we've been doing things, or we've been thinking about it. Open to feedback about this, but I think if we want to be even more specific about this, or one of the things that I've actually seen the community do over the last couple of weeks is come up with a bunch of clarifying HIPs, and I think that's actually really great because it makes it even more specific that the community wants a thing a certain way, right? And I think that we can make changes to the way we take that snapshot. Ideally not right up and until the migration, but preferably, sometime before that migration happens. So that's something that we're open to, and more clarifying HIPs would be great, and we're open to it. The hotspots inadvertently placed on the deny list that do not get reviewed prior to migration. I know that the deny list maintainers are working as fast as they can to get through the backlog. We don't really have a way to do a holdback or anything like that. If we did, we would essentially be taking away from folks that may not actually get pulled off the deny list, and that would reduce the IoT share for the folks that were eligible. And so this is a tough one. I don't know if there's a perfect solution for any of this, unfortunately. So we just have to pick one solution that's clear and has a clear set of rules. According to the HIP, it's if you're on the deny list at the moment of the migration, you're not eligible. So that's the one that I'm going to assume we're going to go with until there's better feedback from the community about it.
Great, thanks, Abai. Josh, anything that you wanted to add in there?
Sorry, just on the first part of the question, which really wasn't necessarily related to the IoT tokens or the deny list, but just wanted to confirm or clarify that if a hotspot is not online at the migration and it is resuscitated or brought back online after the migration, there's nothing nothing specific that needs to be done. It will just, it'll work, I guess, is all I was asking on the very first part of that question.
Oh yeah. So like if a hotspot was registered to the chain, it's like onboarded on the chain prior to the migration, it will be claimable on the other side, like on the migration side. So once the wallet migrates, it will be represented as a hotspot NFT on Solana, regardless of whether or not it's online or not. So we'll have lots of hotspot NFTs that are, you know, offline and have been offline for a while that'll still be NFTs on the other side. We're not excluding any inactive hotspots.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and I appreciate the response on the other questions. I'll follow up separately and maybe on some clarifying questions on the IoT airdrop side. But to your point, it sounds like we all may need to make some clarifying points through a HIP or some other means. So I appreciate that.
And Josh, if you want to reach out directly, I think you have my contact, but if not, you can reach out too.
Okay, thanks.
All right, keeping things moving. Next one from Jameson. What's the process for migrating endpoints from the existing network to the HPR network?
Hey, probably for me again. All right, so so good question. So next week, we're gonna start migrating data that's on the chain. So how, you know, if you're aware of how it works right now, you know, all your information is on the chain, right? Where your router address is, the devices, you know, EUIs, IDs, and everything's on the chain. That will not be the case as of, you know, the 27th. So prior to that, we are going to start migrating those OUIs off chain to what we call the config service. So if you see, you know, me or other people talking about the config service, that's what the config service will be. It will replace that part of the chain that was storing all that information. So you know where your LNS is, you know, what kind of device, you know, EUIs you're interested in, your dev data ranges, your net ID, things like that. All of that will live in there. We are also going to release CLI that will allow you to go and manipulate, you know, those records for you, pretty much. So we're going to migrate the OUIs for people. And then it will be then your job will be to go and create your own route that will point to your LNS. So if you're running a router right now, you know, you'll have to go and say, okay, this is, you know, where my router is. We've tried to do this automatically for people. The reality is a lot of OUIs do not have routers either running or able for me to ping them from, you know, inside the network. So we found that it was probably easier to let kind of people go and do that by themselves. And of course, you know, we'll have documentation for all of that. That's what we're testing, you know, this week. And, you know, so far we've gotten pretty good feedback on all of that is working. I hope that answered your question.
Sorry, I just caught myself on mute there. James, anything you want to drill in there? Will the devices need to be physically reset?
No. That was obviously one of the biggest things. We did not want, you know, of course you can go and, you know, reset and rejoin all the devices. So there were no change, Laurie, to dev adders, to EUIs, none of that really changes, right? So your device won't even know what just happened. You know, that's really the goal. Obviously, that was one of the imperative of not rejoining the entire network, as well as roaming partners, by the way, you know.
Well, I do want to clarify. So like if you were to shut down your instance of Helium console and not migrate like the network session keys over to an instance of Chirp Stack or something like that, and then set those devices up again, those devices, like your LNS wouldn't know what to do with those packets because it needs all of those keys. So
of course.
part of what we're looking at is like, how do we make this migration process really smooth so that there's tooling for that?
I guess I'm being silent here, but will there be good kind of tutorial picture level documentation? Some of us fancy ourselves programmers, but we're pretty bad ones, as you know, Joey, from me reaching out to you.
We work the exact same way, Jameson. I actually was starting to do a little bit more work on the OpenLNS documentation last night. And so framing things like there's going to be a document that's just an overview. What is this thing? And then there's going to probably be a couple more documents that are much more sort of technical walkthroughs. Some of them are very ephemeral just for the state of migration. But all of these questions shape those documents, so this is super valuable to talk about. So I appreciate it.
We're planning on a really like kind of step-by-step migration, right? Like this is, you know, what you do first, second, third, and we're following it ourselves right now to make sure that, okay, have we forgot something, right? Because it's really important, right? We don't want to leave, you know, devices behind and things like that. So, and we'll be able to provide those, you know, earlier than the doomsday date, I guess, of end of March, right? You don't say doomsday, that's kind of negative.
I would say, I'm sure we can come up with a better word for this.
Yeah.
Here with
Well, just
before the chain.
blame it on my English. Blame it
Network
on my English.
upgrade.
Goodness.
The improvement date.
You can hear that Pierre worked on the core chain, the core helium
Yeah.
element. That voice, you know it.
That's from the doomsday blog. That's where I get it.
Oh my God, I love it. Perfect. That's it. Hey, Daniel, sounds good to me. All right, nothing else now. I'm gonna keep things rolling here. So the next one from Brandon, I just popped in the chat as well. From my understanding from the last office hour session, there has been progress to set up examples of how to pull data from Solana in a similar way to the old ETL. Do we have an ETA on when some examples or documentation will be available for this?
Yeah, I think this matches with Barry's comment earlier. So there's some work to be done to document how to pull things from Solana. The Oracle's data documentation tells you about how to pull stuff from oracles. And I believe, and I'm not sure if it's been published yet, but there is actually a sample repo going to be published shortly that does a very, very, very basic version of here's this data in S3, here's how you put it into a Postgres database. And here's a very simple API that you can use to serve it. So it's just a code sample that that we're going to push out if it's not already. Is that answer what you were looking for, Brandon?
Brandon, is that any further questions on that one, or do you want to drill in more?
No, I will take a look at the code sample when it's released, and if I had any more questions, I will point it out.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, excellent. Again, like really appreciate like all these are all it's good questions we want. I mean, it's very helpful for us. We sometimes try not to get too stuck in our own echo chamber within the team. So this is all very, very helpful. All right, jumping to the next question from Rishi. What is the best way to guide the community around IoT and mobile immediately after migration, especially around programmatic treasury availability afterward? Abai, do you have as far as in terms of programmatic treasury timing here? I want to be careful that we're obviously kind of speaking more on kind of like the mechanics versus anything that relates to markets, obviously, since we really can't win it.
I think that the simplest thing that we do, the way that we can guide the community is that there will always be a way for you to convert your IoT and mobile to HNT if that's something that you choose to do. It's sort of built into the sort of structure of the sub-DAOs. There may be markets out there that allow you to directly interact with IoT and mobile with other tokens on the Solana ecosystem. sure, exchanges are able to list these tokens. I think there's one that did already for mobile, which was a surprise, but they did. And then, I think that there's, but that's all, and that's always been available to all these folks, all these sort of liquidity providers out there. And so that's sort of the, so I would start with something really simple when we're guiding with the community, is that you can convert, but you can also stake. What's the purpose of IoT and mobile, staking mobile and IoT today? That's to be able to participate in governance for each of these sub-DAOs, and which is going to be really, really important, because we want each of these sub-DAOs to have independence in decision making. I know there are HIPs that are specific for each of these sub-DAOs that people are thinking about. Everything from like changing pricing of data credits potentially to allowing more regional control for proof of coverage, and things like that. And that really should be litigated inside of the sub-DAO, right? I don't think that's an HNT wide sort of decision, or nor should it be. So that's why you may want to stake IoT. I think I certainly have a couple of ideas of other reasons why you might want to stake IoT that I've talked about in the HIP discussion channel, but that's not a HIP yet, so obviously it's not real. So that's how I would sort of guide the community around it.
Appreciate your head nodding, but I want to make sure you feel like, is there anything else that you want to dig in on? Or is that,
One other thing that I would add is I'm looking right now, and this is a little early for me to be like sure of this, but I would like to make it possible for us to have in the Helium wallet app and the Black Icon app the ability to do this swap directly, just like it's just right in the app. Ideally, it'd be something integrated with other features of other sort of composable components in Solana, like Jupiter, and so what that would require us to do is make the programmatic treasury contract part of the things that Jupiter supports. And then, so when you try to do a swap, it just says, yeah, here's the quote from Jupiter, but it happens to use a programmatic treasury contract. And that allows things to be more composable as well, right? Like Jupiter does this really, really clever thing where it says, here's this one market and here's this other market, and it kind of puts it together and runs it as one transaction for you, which is really, really great UX if you want to go from, I don't know, HNT to Bonk or something like that, and go through like mobile on the way. And I used the silly example on purpose there.
all right, thanks again, Abai. Appreciate anything else you want to add in?
No, that was great. I know there's just been a lot of questions and uncertainty, and I think that definitely gives us a lot of guidance to kind of pass along. So thank you.
Perfect. So thanks again, everybody who popped questions in. This is all incredibly helpful to us and informative in the sense of where else we can be spending time. Separate from some of these, more specific questions around whether that's expectation setting, a little bit more clarification. Anything in general from the group that you feel like is lacking right now in resources and documentation, where you feel like there's a significant gap or something that's not being adequately addressed? Whether you want to just chime in here live or pop things in the doc, either one is helpful.
I mean, Scott, I'll sort of react and say, like, I'm hearing, there are more docs to be written. So I think it's really, really clear that we have more stuff to write, and also open to contributions from this group or other folks in the community to help us write, where there's a specific use case that you guys care about, that you want to write about, just open the PR for sure. Like, we're not gonna, I'm more than happy to review any PRs to the docs repo. And I'm sure Sam will be as well.
And feel free to flag that also as far as within that open fishbowl channel, if you want to send a note directly to us, just again, in terms of being most efficient with work, if there's something that you feel strongly about and you're going to open a PR on that, where we can be, again, thoughtful about how we're allocating resources on our side as well. Obviously, to whatever degree we can be collaborative there, supporting your efforts, that is best. And thank you, Sam, for just adding in your Discord handle. I think I have almost everybody. I'll double check everybody. I think included there. I think I got most of the Discord handles. If there's any that are missing, I might do a quick direct outreach on email just to make sure everybody has access to contribute to that channel once we open that up.
I just add on the topic of docs. Well, that working group channel in Discord is a great way to start sort of like brainstorming like where things can be added. I'm gonna just go ahead and volunteer myself if you are thinking about some docs, but like it's hard to like put the words together or whatever reason. Feel free to ping me and I will try to find some time to jump on a Zoom and we will hammer through it together, just like pair program the thing and get a PR up. Anything we can do to sort of get this stuff out there, the better. Trying to squeeze in all my spare time on docs right now, and it's always a challenge.
You know, I'll add to that and say, honestly, with docs, the formatting and everything can be a little daunting as well. Literally any text you can put in there, I can run with. So don't be intimidated by it has to be formatted a certain way or anything like that. I mean, even if you want to just make an issue with a link to a Google Doc, I'm happy to take those as well and kind of get that all confronted. I just don't want there to be like the barrier to entry. I'd like that to be as low as possible. So please feel free to sling things wherever you can.
Yeah, genuinely appreciate it. It's mostly around the content for us is the most helpful bit. We can handle everything on kind of formatting and output, but the more we can have the input from you on the specific language or the content, that is very much appreciated. Benefits the whole community, of course. All right, so I think that in general, again, I'm looking at the fact that we got about 10 minutes left. I want to be mindful of folks' time, especially for anybody who's made the time to be very late on the line from Asia. You know, I think that we're pretty clear from a lot of the questions that came up about what type of docs we need to think about next. And we'll certainly take the lead on these. Definitely open to volunteers, PRs, as we just covered there. So if there's anything else anybody wanted to add in, you know, other questions that we didn't get to, something you want to drill deeper, any other open thoughts in general, just as far as feedback on kind of like process thus far. We've got 10 minutes to go right now, so open floor for anybody who wants to either comment, productive feedback, or other questions that just popped in your head.
I'm kind of curious to ping the group. This is partially floating something past PR2, but I just noticed that you sort of offered for Jameson to jump into the testing group for the open LNS stuff. I've been hoping to get a public channel together. I guess the question is, do we feel like we are ready for that? And what sort of docs do we think we need alongside a channel like that?
I'm gonna say not just yet. We are, I think we're like just yeah, some of the makers, you know, like I was, you know, posting that some of the makers are trying are starting to test. We're wrapping up a few you know, kind of last minute bugs and things here and there, mostly around the config service, right? Because it's really going to be the backbone of all that. So we want to make sure there's no, you know, no possibility for gaming or other things like this. But yeah, other than that, I think afterwards, I'm talking to Victor, who's our product manager here at Nova, and who's organizing this better. So he's more like the front facing of all of this, and I think I can drop his Discord handle here. I'll do that right now. This is his Discord handle. Oh, there you go. You got it already. So he's probably the best person. I tend to live more in the shadows and just execute. And so probably better question for him, really.
Okay, so it sounds like the comfort zone there is basically getting to Helium packet router being live alongside that config service, and then we can open this up to everybody.
And that is literally next week.
Okay.
So we yeah.
Cool. I can live with next week. That sounds good to me.
We'll have we'll release. There'll be, you know, obviously warnings. We'll You'll have documentation on how to do this. Like you know, you won't be left in the dust, obviously.
Okay, if there's nothing else on that thread. Max just had added a question around timing here, which I'll post in. So effectively, it's mostly an accounting issue, 27th being a Monday, but the benefits to pushing this on the first of a month from an accounting perspective. Curious, just kind of, again, like rather than just like general straw poll, but just like open forum here. How do other folks tend to feel about that? Is that actually impactful?
April Fool's Day.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, doing a full migration on April Fools is ripe for the memes. Pass. Keep that away.
Knowing Max, that's exactly what he's trying to get.
I was going to say, yeah.
I see he's staying silent on
I
purpose.
know. Anybody else, though, as far as an opinion on this, at least like from the accounting perspective? Or anything else that's kind of meaningful as far as, launching this on, 27th versus the first of a month? Seems like it's more of a back office question than a technical question, so.
I think maybe assuming that IoT will start, I guess, being available. I guess all the tax tools, I guess fair tax or fair spots tax tool is going to change a little bit. So I mean, I think it's going to be kind of from an accounting perspective and a record keeping perspective, it's going to be a full shift over to a new system. So that's kind of a cutoff in itself. So I mean, I think from a back end, from an accounting perspective, I know host payments and kind of that last few days of the month might matter, but on the blockchain side of things, we're going to have a hard cutoff anyway.
Yeah, and the other thing that I would add to that is you can hold your claim until the first if you wanted to, right? So you don't actually have to claim your your IoT or mobile for each hotspot. We know when it's available. You can hold it until the first if you wanted to, or the third if you wanted to.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like because it's gonna take some time for the people to adjust, move wallets, understand how the new setup's gonna work. If we do instead of like the 27th, do it like on the 2nd, so everybody can process payments the old way, let's say, and then have a full month to understand how things work after that. You can reduce some like people complaining or like where's my money kind of thing. Just one idea.
Yeah, this is a reasonable forum to bring this up. I mean, I think I think the sort of structure of this group, just to sort of remind everyone, is like we will have a checkpoint in the meeting in 2 weeks, where we sort of like do a round the room vote, and if we feel like that's one of the gating factors, we can say that we're not ready on the 27th. That's available to us. So I think like we don't need to make a decision right now is kind of my point. I think this is a reasonable point to bring up. And if there are other solutions that we come up with over the next 2 weeks, great. Like then we can decide that the 27th is okay. Or if it's not resolvable in another way, then that's an option to sort of say that we should push. Yeah, I just want to remind the sort of there is the possibility that you don't need to claim new tokens until whatever date that you want. You'll have to look into your sort of local rules around how you account for that, and then also understand like how that might affect for the large fleet deployers, how that might affect your host payments.
Okay. So I think I'm just looking to see, nope, don't see any new questions that have come in. I think we're pretty good, at least from our perspective as foundation in terms of where we can start to make some progress on docs and resources. We'll get that fishbowl channel open to keep the conversation going. Otherwise, just for the sake of, simplicity, we will put the recurring meeting on for same time each week on Thursday. Seem to work for the majority of folks, at least for this week. So we'll keep this going. Again, not all mandatory. I understand everybody has busy schedules, and we appreciate everybody joining across the world, different time zones. So that's going to be the biggest point of the channel in Discord, to make sure that we can keep having asynchronous collaborative discussion there, rather than waiting for this call, which may not always work for everybody each week. Otherwise, unless there's anything else, we're basically back at the top of the hour. So I just want to genuinely thank everybody for making time, volunteering. Really appreciate, want to make sure this goes as smoothly and seamlessly as possible. Everybody here is a major contributor to the network success, and I'm really excited about this next era. I think it's going to really showcase a lot more of the scalability for the chain, a lot more viability. So I'm really personally excited to know everybody else on the foundation team is here as well. So thank you all. Appreciate the time. We'll get this video up and posted for public view. We'll try to get things summarized, and we'll keep the discussion going in Discord. But thank you all, and have a great rest of your days.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.